Hi, I'm Nick Cosentino, and I'm a Principal Software Engineering Manager at Microsoft. In this video interview, I was joined by Gaurav Rohatgi, and we got to talk about his developer journey. In this conversation, he shares with us one of his interview stories where you can see that there was a lot of luck involved, but it's a really cool story to hear about. Now, one of the things that really resonated with me as Gaurav and I went through this conversation was this concept of thinking about feature development versus platform development as a software engineer. So there's a lot of overlap and interesting parts to it, but also you have a slightly different mindset and perspective when you're building these things. A reminder that if you like this kind of content and you enjoy these conversations, leave a comment below to let me know. Thanks, sit back, enjoy, and I'll see you next time. Well, do you want to give us a little bit of background for how you got to where you are? And you can start from wherever you want in your sort of your journey to where you are now.
hmm Yeah, I have 19 years of experience. I started my career from India, Indore, Madhya Pradesh, as a software engineer with a small company. Market was very, very bad that time. Difficult to get the job, difficult to survive the job. So people were just going to the either as a developer or as a, I should say, as a coach or as a professor.
Okay.
They're just trying to find the job, and I was just trying to hold myself. It took around 1 year for me to get a right job. Of course the pay was less, but actually I got what I wanted to do with a
Good.
small
Okay.
company called iSmart, and that's how my career started. And then probably within the last 18 years, this is my eighth company. Right now I'm working for SAP SuccessFactor. I moved to USA like 12 years back with one of the consulting company, and
Cool.
switched, worked on Capital One, Fannie Mae, the big giants. Right now I'm with SAP SuccessFactor. The whole career is actually with Java, J2E, and right now I'm working as a product developer and in a platform team. So when I'm saying platform team means we are working on a frameworks
Right.
like uh, authentication mechanism with the different IS systems, then email framework, the how the background jobs are working,
Hmm.
uh, and how we are working on the HANA Studio. So we are working on migration right now for the HANA to HANA Cloud.
Okay.
So we are working on a framework level, and the feature team is working on top of it.
Right.
So that's
Interesting.
what, yeah, that's what my career is. I have worked on feature team also, a lot of features team, differently for Morgan Stanley, Fidelity,
Sounds like
you
a
name
lot
it.
of finance, a lot of finance companies.
Yeah. So I try to build my profile, and usually the people in my old colleagues also used to call me the fintech guru. A lot of financial knowledge and technology too. So I worked
Very
for a
cool.
couple of banks: ABN AMRO, Morgan Stanley, Fidelity, and ABN AMRO, yeah, and one more company which is closed now, but which is MSCI, the captive investment. Uh, but yeah, a lot of finance experience I have. But I
Very
land
cool.
up with SAP SuccessFactor learning product right now.
Awesome. And if you don't mind me asking, did you like how early in your like in your life were you like, I know I want to be like a software developer? Like, was it as when you were a kid? It was something that stood out to you, or was it something that happened closer to like when you were trying to go for post secondary education?
hmm So I'm coming from middle class family from India, and my brother, my elder brother, he used to work. He wanted to see what exactly he can build the career in computers. So
Okay.
he bought the computer at home. Initially, he actually rented long back, like when I was kid, like 10, 15, 12 years. He that time in India we have to rent the uh,
No way.
computer, not the laptop, computer. Yeah, the monochrome
But to
screen.
rent it, you have
Yes,
to. Oh wow, wow. Okay.
because if you are paying, if you are going to buy, it is more than 100,000 or 150,000 rupees. Of course today 150,000 rupees is much, very small, but like I'm talking about 25 years back, it was huge amount, right?
Wow.
So it's better to always rent it out. So when he got that computer at home, I used to play a lot of games that time.
Sure.
Of course. And then eventually he asked me to just learn few things. He used to explain me. That's how my interest actually built. And then I decided, okay, let's do something in computer. I didn't have the clear idea because he was not a traditional software engineer. He did his masters in commerce, and
Okay.
then he chose this line. So he was also not like a traditional software engineer. So I dig it out, like how exactly I can get into this line. So I did my bachelor's in electronics because I was not clear how exactly I can reach there. Then I did my master's computer applications. For that, we have to take the uh, test, the aptitude test, and once you will get through, then only you can choose one college, or the college will choose you technically.
Oh,
Based
interesting.
on that, yeah, based on that, I got the master's done. um, that's how I chose. Okay, no, I wanted to really wanted to do the software.
Right, but you got to do the electronics part before, like for your bachelor's.
Correct.
Interesting.
So
Yeah, that's
bachelor's, I did electronics honors because I mean, when you're a kid, you don't know how exactly you can reach to your goal, right? And
yep.
as I mentioned, it's very difficult for to get the direction also. So a couple of cousins, they were in electronics. So I thought, okay, they are doing good in their life. They have car, they have a good house. Why not electronics? Let's try it
Sure.
out. Yeah, but then I realized, no, 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 that's not my line. Probably I need to jump into the computers, and I like the language. My brother used to develop, work on Fortran and then DBase and then Visual Basic. So
Nice. Okay.
I learned the Visual Basic first.
That's where I started as well. It was for Visual Basic, but it's interesting you mentioned kind of going into like electronics and then finding software. For me, it was kind of similar. I think that when I was in like high school, I was like, I'm going to be doing something with computers, and I really like to program. But I remember like you said it, like as a kid, you're not really exactly sure how you set yourself up for success. Like you're just a kid, so all that you can do is try to get a little bit of insight, and hopefully you're getting it from the right people.
Right.
And
Hmm.
I remember asking my father, and like he had a computer company, like was primarily around like fax machines and faxing. So it seems like kind of a weird
Nice.
technology space, but so he'd been doing this for a long time, and he
Wow.
had said to me, "Oh, like the money is in hardware," but that's his bias, right? Because
Right.
it's just his experience. And I
Of
remember being
course.
like, "Well, I know how to write software. Obviously, I'm just a kid. Like I'm not a professional, but I'm like I understand at least that I enjoy software. So I think I should go to school for." And I went for computer engineering so that I could get the hardware side. And
I see.
I
Nice.
remember going through it and being like, I hate everything about hardware. I need to be doing software. So I had internships, and every single
Hmm.
internship I just opted for a software job to get myself through school. And then I was like, I know that it needs to be software, not hardware. So
Nice, nice, nice. Of course, of course. I totally understand. It's very difficult to grab the direction. I totally agree.
before we move on, this is just a quick reminder that I do have a course on C# refactoring available on Dome Train. Refactoring is one of the most critical skills that you can learn as a software engineer, and this helps you continue to build upon applications that already exist, making sure that they can scale and have extensibility. I walk you through a bunch of various techniques and give you some examples that we walk through together to see how we can apply these techniques to refactor the code. Check out the pinned comment and the links in the description to get this course. Now back to the video. You had mentioned like a lot of time spent in Java, of course, but you started,
Hmm.
like you said, like VB was one of the languages you learned at the beginning. What
Hmm.
was it, basically straight to Java once you started your professional career, or like were you kind of bouncing around in different languages as you were going through?
Okay, so it's a very good story. Actually, it's a very nice story for me because it's
Perfect.
my career, right? But maybe people won't find it very interesting, but for me, it's like very close to my heart.
Cool.
So in college, Visual Basic was the first target in college, right? When you are doing the masters, the assignments, the project, the intern project, all those things were in the Visual Basic. But I was quite into the Java because I saw my brother used to learn a little bit here and there. So he has the book, Java book, probably Java 3 or Java 4, I don't remember. So I learned, I mean, I saw that book, I read it. It was really interesting. But as I had those projects in Visual Basic and my first company, I told you, right, after a year, I got the job, right? It was
Mhm.
very hard to get the job. So first company, they're also on the Visual Basic. I said, okay, it's okay. I mean, I need a job first in a right
Yeah.
company where I can develop the code. So Visual Basic is fine. I worked on that company for 6 to 7 months. In that, I asked my manager, like, can I work on Java? He said, I have one internal project which is like some call center people are going to work. They need some access on the tickets. So if you can develop in Java, I don't mind. So
Okay.
developed that. I designed it. I developed it. Of course, it was not a foolproof product, but it
Sure.
was internal, so it was fine, and it worked very well. Then
Awesome.
I thought, okay, it's good. Let's try to move on. So when I switched to the big company in India, I told that, okay, I have 7 months experience. They said, no, 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 you are considering as a fresher only, the college grade only. So they asked me to take the test, and I said, okay, I'm ready for taking the Java. And they said, no, as your career is in Visual Basic, we cannot take you in the Java. Let's take the exam or written test in Visual Basics. I was little upset, like if I'm ready, then why not? But
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
the rules are rules, right, for the companies. So I had to take the test in Visual Basic. I did my best, but they said no, it's not clear. I was like, I know, because my
Because your
focus was
head is in
completely on
Java.
Java, right? Although, yeah. So they said, okay, not selected. I went back home around 9 p.m. in the night. I got a call from my friend who was also actually the part of that interview. So he was also taking the interview there. And he called, hey, Gaurav, they are calling you back. I was like, who is calling me back? The company's people are calling you back. I was like, why? It's 9 p.m. Are you just kidding with me? It's 9
Right.
p.m. It's not possible. He said, no, 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 I'm serious. Please come to the place again. I was like, okay. Then I went back at around 9:30. I reached there. The people were there, the HR and the technical guys, and they said, you are the guy who was ready for Java, right? I said, yeah, of course. So you have to take the interview and Java and Visual Basic both. Are you ready for it? I was like, why not? So three people were taking my interview at 9:45 around. I was like little yawning in though.
Yeah.
Okay, then I said, of course, right? But okay, I said, no, 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 probably that's an opportunity for me, right? So I took the interview back to back, the Visual Basic and the Java DLLs and the for loop, and then how the library is working in the Java, and then how the libraries are working in Visual Basic. They were bumping around me, shooting all those questions, and finally I got selected. I was
Awesome.
like, okay, this is something little different. It is not usual. At least that's what I felt. They called me luckily, and fortunately, I picked the call and I went there and I got a big company's job. And there also, it took a while for me to get the Java
Mm.
Java coding in the project. Because as a fresher, I got again the small project, which is again Visual Basic and Java support. So I used to work
Okay.
on Java support a lot. And then I fought back with my director. I want to do the coding properly. And then it took around a year for me. And then I jumped to Java properly. And since then, I'm on Java.
Very interesting. I think that's an awesome story. I'm I don't know if you know to this day, like, did they like it seems interesting that they called you back. They were pretty adamant that they were like, no, no, like you have to do it in Visual Basic. But
Hmm.
it's very cool that they gave you that other opportunity. I mean, late at night's kind of crappy, but at least there was this opportunity there, right? So
Right, right. Yeah, of course. So it thrills me always. Now, when I'm saying it, it thrills me. I am getting goosebumps. Oh my God. I had that luck
yeah,
with me probably, or I was the lucky at that day that I was looking for Java, and my path is here. If it
right.
would not be Java, probably I would be somewhere else then. I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe I
that's
left the software engineering. I don't know.
well, the other thing I wanted to mention, because I think it's an important like sort of meta point, right? Is like as you're talking through this, it's pretty, to me at least, it feels pretty obvious. Like you were like, I want to be working in Java. This is an interest of mine. I want to advocate for it, and you were doing it from the beginning, right? And the sort of the meta point for me here is like you need to be the one advocating for the things that you want to be doing and focusing on, because unfortunately, like, it's not that no one else will, but no one else will do it like you will, because you will care the most about your own sort of progression, your journey, your focus. If you have good mentors and managers and stuff, sure, they can help along the way, but ultimately, like, you kind of got to be pushing for yourself to get those opportunities.
Right, I agree, because for me, the brain and the stomach both are same thing. You want to fill the stomach with the taste which you want.
Right.
Same thing with the brain also. You should do what you want to do. If you will do,
Right.
I don't care whether you're successful or not, but you will be happy. And even today, if I'm making some code and if it is not working and if I'm cracking it, oh my God, I'm getting the full satisfaction the way I'm having the full meal.
Right.
I'm getting that kind of satisfaction with the brain. So for
Yeah.
me, brain and stomach is same.
That's a great analogy, and you kind of you mentioned too, right? Like in the very beginning, you were like, "Look, I need a job, so like whatever's going to set me up to start making progress." But you didn't stop there. It wasn't like, "Okay, I got it. Like now I can just sit back and say, cool, it's here." But you were like, "Okay, now I got it. But like, how do I make sure that I keep moving in the direction that I want to be?" And I think, like I said, I think that's a good meta point because uh, it's like it's only the beginning once you're in, because now you have your career ahead of you to steer in the direction that you want to go. So that's a
Hmm.
I love that story. I think it's great.
Thank you.
Cool. So I know you mentioned a lot of work in finance areas, and I think
Hmm.
one interesting thing to kind of drill into a little bit, because I'm very curious about this. I have a little bit of experience going from what I would say is a lot more user facing product feature development, like literally getting, building UIs and having users click through stuff, to for me now, not only I'm not writing code at work, I'm managing teams, but they're platform teams. So I'm very curious for you in your journey going from feature development, knowing like there's going to be users that use this feature, to now like more platform style development. What is like that mindset shift, if any, that you have kind of going in that direction?
Right. Very interesting question, actually. So even for me also. So I'll just give you a little background before
Yeah,
that
yeah.
about me. So last 5 years, I'm in the product development. Prior to that, I was in a services company or the feature companies where I can give the provide the services from one of the consulting company or
Sure.
working for the company and only working for the UI or specifically features. So the whole journey was about the feature so
Right.
far. When I switched to the SAP SuccessFactors Learning, um, I am still learning the learning. Believe me, this is my words. Still 5 years. Product is huge. So the basic difference between the feature development and the product where I'm working in the platform team, as I mentioned, right? Platform team where we are working on the frameworks, right? It's very different because in feature you know what exactly clients want or customer wants, and your product owner, your product manager or program manager, they will explain you what exactly they want and you
Right.
can develop it. It can be 90%, 95%, approximately 99% feature you are developing, and it is completing this requirement
Right.
where customer can be happy. It's other way around. Framework team, we have to make sure the product is running sustainable, scalable, without any issues, secured, and more comfortness to the customer behind the scene. Because for customer, platform, they don't care how exactly
Right.
it's working. What they care is whether this feature is working or not. To
Right.
reach up to that feature, they need to do a lot of setup with the big products like this LMS learning, right? They need to set up a lot of authentication mechanism. They need to set up the different tools provided by SAP again. So that is where our part is coming. We have to interface with different systems. We have to set up their customers users. We have to set up millions of users. We have to set up their profiles,
Mm.
so that they don't care about these things because this
Sure.
is just
Yeah.
a raw work, right? It's not there for the customer, but we have to make sure that it will be flawless, it will
Right.
be smooth for them. And if they have some issues at that point, that's a fallback on us. Oh my god, that's not good because it's not even feature. They need to reach to the feature and they are facing problem here. So this is a mindset where we whatever we are doing, we have to do FTR first time right. That will make lot of difference because, I mean, think about it. You want to go to movie, correct?
Sure.
And if you want to go to the movie, you are thinking, okay, I'm sitting on the chair, reclining, and I'm watching the movie. You are not thinking about the popcorns. You are not thinking about the tickets. You are not thinking how you will reach to the theater, where you will park. You are not thinking. These are your only facilities or your logistics which you need to reach. And if you will face the problem there, oh, I'm missing my feature. I'm missing my movie. So
Right.
that's the brain will come. It doesn't matter whether it is working or not. Then you will try to find workaround.
Right.
And as a platform engineer, I'm telling you, it's not a right thing. Workaround is always possible, but FTR is very important in our case. And it took around 1 year, 1.5 year for me to understand FTR is very important.
Right.
First time, right? Whatever you are delivering, make it 100% correct. And there are like for this product, we have around more than 4,000 customers and millions of users, right?
Right. Yeah.
Including Bentley, Disney, Etihad, Delta, all these airlines. So it's very difficult.
Pretty
So many
important. Yeah.
users. Yeah, of course, right? Customer is always right. We need to keep them happy. And considering it is not very important for them, but very important for the product to launch
Right.
at their site. So FDR is very important. That is the basic thing with this particular platform engineering.
That's a I'm curious, like and maybe it looked different from fintech areas, but I know at least from my experience, and I feel like there's a lot of areas now where we'll be talking about MVPs, so like, and I don't mean to like rush code out necessarily, but basically get something working out fast so you can start getting feedback, and that might mean that you put out, like, it's not that you write crappy code on purpose, but you put out something first and you're testing to see, like, is this what the customer actually wanted. um, it almost seems like you don't really have that much of an opportunity with the platform. It's like you it's probably minimal where you're able to do that because you said like first time right. So you got to make sure that if you're putting it out for the customers to start building on top of, like, that's the thing that they got to work with. Is that fair to say?
I totally agree. And when you said MVP, now I'm going back to my 5 years back, the feature team where I used to work. MVP, 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 speed to market.
Right.
So that's the word people, I mean, I worked in different companies, as I mentioned, right? So the rush is always if speed to market. As soon as you can put into the QA, it has to be ready for the production. Forget
Right.
about the testing. We will do the testing with integration, J units, with manual, whatever it is.
Anything to
We
speed it up, right?
Exactly. So I told you, right? If I'm working in finance, that is the biggest thing in the finance industry. Whatever you are working, it has to be ready to move to the production. It doesn't matter whether a few things are not working. That's totally fine. Make sure the transactions are fine, secure. Rest of them doesn't matter. Let's go to the market. So I worked for the bank where I worked for the credit card payment like 10 years back
Mhm.
on that middleware system where credit card payment can be done through the ATM. These days it's very common, but 10 years
Sure.
back it was the new technology, new thing. So we developed that. Of course, I was part of it, and I was part of one of the design team where I designed how exactly the transaction will be called to the credit card system. I was part
Okay.
of the ATM side, the retail side, right? So we used to get the request. We used to call to the credit card APIs, make sure the things will work fine. We did not thought about the hardware at
Mhm.
that time, and there was a team for ATM hardware console who was working on it. We didn't expect it, but when it launched into the market, as I said, you speed to market is always very fast. Within 2.5 months, our product was live with couple of ATMs, not couple of ATMs, probably more than 12 ATMs in California. You
Okay.
won't believe. Within 5 days, we received over $1 million deposit for credit card payment. Our machine got hung. We didn't have the tray to deposit. I
Oh.
mean, being a middleware engineer, I can't do anything because that's not my part. But when you are interacting with the ATM console team, they are saying, "Oh my God, it's so difficult. How to manage this?" Then we wrote the service for them so that they can use the deposit for the bank also, even the where the withdrawing when we are withdrawing the money. So it's a dispenser. You
Right.
can put the transactions deposit money into the dispenser slot also. When you are doing this, there is a problem of reconciliation of the data,
Sure.
because at the end of the day or end of the week, one guy will come who will take all the report from the console, see how much withdraw, how much deposit happens,
Right.
all credit debit. It has to match with our transactions which we did, whether it is within the bank or credit card or somewhere else, because a number of customers are coming for different banks even also, right? They are coming from X bank and withdrawing from Y bank. Very common, right? So a lot of reconciliation. Oh my God, that was more bigger project for me, I guess, at that moment. So I'm just trying to explain how challenging it is, the MVP part when you are saying, right? Speed to market. Let's do it. Let's do it. Let's do it. We're here. Authentication mechanism. Wait. If
Yeah.
it is not rightly authenticated, if it is not rightly working, it's not gonna work. It will be like it will throw the error, and customer cannot reach to that level, right? If
Right.
the users are not migrated properly. So we can't speed to market just like that. Where MVP, let's do everything fast. So I totally agree with you on this point.
Yeah, different mindset, right? And
Oh,
when
very
we're
different.
talking about customers here and what you're building, uh, there's we kind of chatted about this a little bit before recording, right? But this idea that you're building like platform infrastructure, there are feature teams building on top of that. Um, Especially from the perspective of like MVP and trying to get things out faster, like, is there this other layer of difficulty that if you put something out and people start building on top of it, you can't say, "Oh wait, like we're just going to go change this API surface area like because we changed our mind next week." Like, I'm assuming it's a lot more locked in, purely as a result of that as well. Is that also fair to say?
It is really very, very, very much clear and fair to say that,
Okay.
because if we are working on the framework level, I'm telling you, we cannot make the mistakes because the feature team is also developing something on top of it. And if they will do it, oh, the rollback is there is no option. Then you have to come up with some other solution where you can support both the versions.
Right.
That is where we are
Interesting.
coming. Yeah. And with our product, we have two different type of customers. We are calling SaaS and VSaaS. VSaaS is like VIP customers who are they are with us long time, and they are not getting the releases from our side regular basis. They are taking the releases yearly basis, and they are very like government is also one of the part, and in Europe also there's a European government is also taking that. I don't want to go into the detail, but what I'm trying to
Yep,
say
that's
is
fair.
they are very much keen to understand whether the system is working after the whole release or not, after two releases, three releases within the whole year. So their testing period is more than 3 months. So for them, we have to take care. Like, okay, if my code is going, how it will work for VSAS, how it will work for the SaaS customers. This is two direction. And the other direction, which you said, if I make some changes, feature developed on top of it, now we need to support the backward compatibility also, because maybe that code will go to the VSAS after a year, and
Sure.
I can't change the newer version for them. So whatever the new feature I'm developing, so that it will support the old and new both, then that's where we are checking the versions. What versions of application is working right now. Based on that, we have to put the feature toggle. That's where we are working on a feature toggle. So we worked on feature toggle also, and not specifically feature toggle as a feature, but
Sure.
feature toggle for the version basis also we are trying to use it.
Yeah, which is, I mean, I'm trying to put my head around how people that are listening or watching might try to think about this, right? Because there's going to be all sorts of different backgrounds. There's a lot of more junior developers, especially coming from like the web space, that will be watching, and I think there's like people may not have thought about some of the complexities that come into play here, where say and I don't want to sound like I'm trivializing things here, but if you're just building a website that is mostly like some front end development with JavaScript, you might have the luxury, because you see it in development, like you can change some JavaScript or HTML and CSS, and immediately you have this feedback loop of like, oh look, there it's updating, and it's powerful, right, to have that feedback. And you can literally take advantage of that with live products, because you can say, oh, there's a bug, or we want to add this feature, like press the button, deploy the change like instantly, and now it's taking effect. And there's a lot of power and, like, I would say, like luxury to that.
Right.
Also potentially risk, but anyway, like you have this luxury of like very fast updates, you can pivot. So when we talk about things like MVPs, I feel like, again, I'm going to use the word luxury, where you can say we can like rush things, and if we need to pivot and adjust, fix bugs, cool. But that's one side of the world, and like I'm trying to even think, like, going to like embedded development, for example. You're trying to make stuff that's going to be put onto embedded hardware. Like that's going to be another extreme, where you absolutely don't have that luxury, because you go flash all these devices, and all of a sudden, like, what, you're going to reflash them because you want to make a small tweak. Like, it's not quite that luxury starts to disappear. But from a platform development perspective, I feel like you're also kind of on that other end of the spectrum of like, you don't really have luxuries to be pivoting and making rapid adjustments, and just because of like these limitations we're talking about.
Right, I totally agree. And that's where we are coming to the Splunk side, which I want to
Okay.
mention, because usually Splunk is for analyzing the logs, how
Right. Yeah.
or troubleshooting the issues, right? What exactly happened with the customer, we can figure it out with the logs. But for us, it's not a secondary thing, it's a first thing.
Okay.
Even if something is happening, we need to know, we need the experience from the customer, right? As I mentioned, actually, as you mentioned, right, you can change the button for them and it will start giving them option and you can get all the things working. But for us, it's not the case, because they don't care. They care about the feature, but we need to know how exactly, how smoothly it went.
Right.
So all the reporting things, not reporting for the customer, reporting for us, we have to go to the Splunk to understand, and we have to put a lot of good logs,
Right.
very good logs, which helps us to identify how the customer is using the system. um, Very small example. So there is always a condition: if else, if else, if else, right?
Right.
Very common. Okay, if 2 rupees, then do this. 5 rupees, then do this.
Sure.
5 bill, then do this. And I don't care about this. What we care about is which customer is going in the if block, which customer is going in the else block, how they are using the system, how they are configuring, how they are migrating the users, how they are migrating the emails. Are they making sure this is working correctly with the DKIM? DKIM is
Right.
another framework for the securing the email, which I worked on. But how they are using the system, that is very important us for us to understand where exactly they are going.
Right.
The fine example which I'll give you is the way, as I mentioned, we migrated all the customers to SAP's standard IAS system for
Right.
authentication. Prior to that, they were using the normal website login.
Okay.
Now they are using the IAS. So in between, there was another success factors login system. So technically, it was first layer, our own products login, then
Sure.
success factor login, and now SAP level login, which is like umbrella.
Yeah.
So SSO, that's what I'm trying to say. When I'm saying SSO, oh, it's so difficult because 4,000 customers are using, millions of users are actually trying to log in like every day. We have an audit table where we are getting every day over almost 100,000 to 200,000 records for one customer. 4,000 customers. So imagine how much record we have, and we need to analyze this.
Right.
Not a good idea. It's production system for the customer. We cannot query directly there. So we need a Splunk. How the system is used. That's where we have to log a lot of informations
Right.
correctly in a right way so that we can identify it, create a dashboard so that we can analyze how the use systems has been used, how many customers are using success factor, how many customers are using
Right.
SAP level IS, why they are not migrating, what is their issue, how we can make it comfortable for them to move from native login to success factor to IS, which is SAP's technology, which that is our final goal. It's been 4 years. We are not there yet. Customers also going to move. As I mentioned again, it's not very important for customer
Yeah. Yeah.
because
Yeah.
for them it's a feature team. But for us, it's very important because they need to move to the right thing because we need to support the future, which is AI. To do that deep learning, we need the right data in the right place, and we have to push it as a secondary, not as a primary. So our code has to be FTR again.
Comes back to that, right? Yeah.
Exactly. So imagine if something which is not important for customer, but it is very important for customer behind the scene, where we can help them actually on a long term. That is where
That's
the these
yeah,
things
that's
comes. Yeah.
that's very interesting because like the way that as you're explaining this, it's resonating with some experiences I've had. And like the one challenge, like when we think about being on a feature team, and you said it much earlier in the conversation, right? Having, especially if you have like good product managers, product owners, and they're kind of being that user proxy. You have a very good feedback loop, ideally, right? Like that's the goal. You have a feedback loop for what the customers should want. You can rationalize what you want to build and how to prioritize it. But when you start talking about platform level, like you have this entire level of indirection. So it's not like you go talk to the product manager and say, "Hey, can you go contact that end user and see how they were using the ATM?" Like it doesn't happen. So when you have this extra level of indirection, the reality is in both cases, you need data. In one situation, you have a product owner, let's say, and obviously the titles and all this stuff can change, but you have generally this role that's facilitating that. They're one of their primary focus areas is trying to take user feedback and transform that into the direction that we should be heading in as a generalization. But that's data. They're doing the transforms. They're kind of facilitating that, but on the platform level, you don't really have it. So you need to build systems in place to aggregate data so that you can start seeing like super high level what's going on. And um, my before Microsoft, I had a brief experience, a much smaller scale with a digital forensics product. We had a very small team working in some mobile forensics, and the challenge is like we were building in a space where there was uncertainty. So like
Mhm.
with mobile forensics, we can't possibly have every possible phone that exists to test with.
Wow.
It's just it's infeasible, right? And
Right.
if even if
Hmm.
we could take a snapshot and have every possible phone today, tomorrow there's more phones. So
Of course.
so we had to do things where we're like we need telemetry to tell us what's working and what's not.
Hmm.
So with that small team, the way that you're describing, like having clear logs and stuff like that, that was my first experience where it was like having clear telemetry, clear logging is like the most critical thing, because without it, even though we had an amazing product manager, like he wouldn't have the insights that we were looking for, because it was like, which devices do we support? When I go over to Microsoft and we're talking planetary scale for, this is on the substrate side of Microsoft, so Office 365, Exchange for email, um, similar problem, but just at a huge scale, right? Where we need
Right.
data. We
Of
need
course.
data to understand what's going on. So very much
Exactly.
resonates.
Right. Very much. So as you mentioned, the one point I just want to bring it here,
Yeah.
couple of lines when you're talking about product owner, product managers. Oh, for platform, of course, it's very fortunate with me. We have very good platform product managers with us. And as you mentioned, it's not a feature, so they have to understand technicality a lot.
Yes.
You won't believe these program managers who I'm working with. They know the SQL better. They know how to generate those reports from the data. They know how to Splunk query this on the Splunk. They understand the technicality. When we are
Right.
trying to explain how the system is interfacing with them, they have to understand. Then only it will help them how exactly it has to work. Otherwise, there is no customer technically. So for us, the PM is our customer, and that's what I'm saying. I'm lucky to have these kind of PMs who are very techy, and that's what we need. So when we are discussing with them, it's not a like a requirement gathering kind of a meeting. It is more like a semi-technical conversation where they can understand the problems also, which
Right.
is very important for us. So just want to bring that point.
Yeah, and no, I think that's great, right? It's I've even before Microsoft, when I was on more feature teams, like I said, I had great product managers to work with, and fortunately, very, like, none of us had experience in digital forensics before working there. It's kind of a weird field to be in, but fortunately, like, from working with people over time at that company, like, they built up a lot of domain expertise, like very technical product owners. So I felt very fortunate to have that, because otherwise it would be very difficult. And going to Microsoft, similar type of story. Like, one of the product managers I work with right now. So we work on like DDoS protection, firewall routing.
Hmm.
Um, he's so extremely technical that it's like it's such a blessing to be able to talk to someone, and like, one of my meta points for software engineers is like communication is like a critical skill. You can't ignore
Hmm.
it. And I don't, my belief, especially like, for like engineering managers, sometimes product managers and stuff like that, I don't believe that you must be extremely technical to be successful. However, I do think that it's very helpful if you are. And the reason I say that is because if you're trying to communicate different thoughts, like, the ideal spot is to meet somewhere where both parties understand each other very clearly. And if you're talking about very technical things and the other person's like, well, I'm not that technical, like, you have to try and find a way to make it work. But the more technical you can be, I feel like the more resolution in
Right.
what you're trying to explain comes through. So yeah.
Right. I totally agree because my manager, my directors, they are also doing coding.
Oh, awesome.
Sometimes they are giving the solutions right away because of course they have so much experience in the product also,
Yeah.
like 18, 20 years experience within this same product. So they understand in and out.
My
They
current
are just
manager is very much like that as well. Like, he's very, very like, I don't know if he could jump into any area of the code right now, but I feel like if you gave him a little bit of time, he could succeed very easily.
yeah. So you won't believe sometimes we are getting some issues or some kind of requirement technical. My director is talking the code, just code when he's talking. Oh my God, I was like, it's amazing. But he has to be because if he is a director of technical like platform team where there is no requirement, no feature, he has to be like that, and he is like that actually, and which is amazing. So whenever we have some issues when we are going there, I don't know. I mean, that's his expertise, right? He understand if I'll tell any problem, any word, if I can phrase it, I don't need to explain it. He understand it correctly because he knew the system. He know what exactly the problem is coming, and he has a solution already. That is amazing, right? It's not like you don't need to go to the architect for that. You can directly go to the director.
Yeah, there's a power in just being able to make communication easier, right? So,
Correct.
like I said, I don't believe that you must be extremely technical, but it sure helps if you're having
It
technical
helps a lot.
conversations to get that clarity.
Right.
Um,
Correct.
no, that's so. Gaurav, I need to wrap up here, but I
Sure.
wanted to say that this is for me. It's a very enlightening conversation. I think it was really important to call out for listeners and viewers, like this idea. A couple things, right? This idea that different types of things that you're developing may not have that rapid turnaround time. Web development, we get that a lot, and other types of development, not the case. And interesting pros and cons to both of those, but they are a
Right.
real thing that you need to consider. And the other part that I thought was really, really good for a takeaway was just this idea of having clear data. We
Hmm.
talked about, like, having good product owners, being technical, and like this can be a huge lifesaver in developing features properly. But when the landscape changes a little bit and you still need that data, how do you make sure that you go have that and support your team for it? So I thought that was really, really good to take away.
Yep. Yep. I totally agree.
Awesome stuff. So if folks want to get in touch with you, is LinkedIn the best place to do that, or is there
Sure.
anywhere else
Definitely.
that you'd like people to go to?
LinkedIn is always available. So I have my website where my profile is available, and there is email, and all those details are available. So it's
Perfect.
gauravrohatgi.com. My first
Perfect.
name, last name.com. People can reach out to me if they have something. Definitely, I'm always available. Happy to help. Um, my phone number, my email address, everything is there.
Perfect. Awesome. I'll make sure that I'll get you to send that over to me, and then I'll add it to the description and the comments and stuff. So,
Awesome.
Gaurav, this has been great. So I wanted to say thank you for making the time to chat with me. And yeah, this is awesome.
Thank you so much. Really, I appreciate your time, and really, it was not a kind of discussion. It was like much more deep discussion, I feel
Cool.
like,
No,
over the weekend. I like
yeah,
it.
no, I appreciate it. This is awesome. So thanks again.
Thank you so much.